Hello, this is Edward Cato Lamar, and the subject I want to talk about right now is educated lames versus street dudes versus African American women. Now, the educated lame tends to come in two forms, either first generation or someone who grew up in the inner city and made his way out. Now, here's the problem. From a female perspective, when you're growing up, when you're in high school, the dope boys, the street dudes, those guys tend to have money in high school. They start selling drugs 13, 14 years old, start stealing shit, whatever. And those tend to be the most successful people in the inner city. The problem with doing things the correct way is you're not going to see the benefits of that until, let's say, your late 20s to early 40s. When you do things the right way, especially when you have no resources to start with and no leg up to start with, it's going to take you. Where the average Caucasian or middle class Caucasian might go to college, just barely make it through, but he's not going to be as saddled with student loans, just all the stuff that you don't start out with. So basically, what the thugs did, through their illegal activity is they circumvented that system because it's all about something called romantic currency. Romantic currency is how valuable you are to the opposite sex. And romantic currency is different for males than it is for females. Basically, the thug is more fun to be around. He has a pocket full of money, he has a nice car, he usually, has his own place, even though it's in the hood. But he gets there a little bit quicker. Now, we can talk about how things change, and by the time you're coming up, that thug isn't so attractive anymore. Because a lot of times that thug already has a couple of felonies on his record, he can't get his own apartment, has to stay with his mom, so forth and so on. Because once you get felonies and once you start getting in trouble with the police, they know who you are. So at around the time when the thug is losing his luster, the educated lame is just now coming into his own. And because you're coming into your own, all of a sudden you're going to start getting the attention of those women who rejected you in high school. Why? Because now you have what the thug used to have. And it's as simple as that. Now here's where the disconnect comes in. A lot of times these black women, they feel some kind of way about the fact that you're rejecting them, 10 years after the fact. It's like, man, this dude's been trying to get at me for 20 years and now, I'm ready to get with him. And he acting like he's mad. Well, yeah, of course you're going to be upset. You're not any better looking. You're not any, nothing else has changed about you except for now you're finally reaping the benefits of what you've been going for since you were 14, 15 years old. Since you were a teenager actually doing your homework and learning things. And it wasn't appreciated then, but now all of a sudden it's appreciated. But here's what upsets the lame. When she comes after you, she's not the one that you became attracted to in the past. You're not getting the same girl that the thugs got. No, she's usually going to be 50 to 60 pounds heavier. She's usually going to have some kids in tow. Other aspects of her life are going to be fucked up. And that's when she wants you. But all that simply happened was your romantic currency increased and hers decreased. So I'm with you. I understand why you're no longer interested in that woman. And a lot of women, like, on YouTube, will say that it's the same thing. It's like these guys want a girl in their prime when they're not in their prime yet. And that might be true. But the problem is that it's not even a chicken or the egg situation. The situation is the woman was the one who did the rejecting first. She drew first blood. So that's how come, the lames do have a more valid argument. It wasn't reversed. And unfortunately, we do live in a society that where women are valued for their beauty. Article after article I read where a lot of black women who did get their education, who did do everything right, and now they're wondering why they can't find a man. Well, damn, she's 35. She's 40. Yeah, she can find a man if she dates someone older than her, but she's no longer in her prime. So that guy who waited to have kids until he was in his late 20s or whatever, that 19-year-old girl who works at Denny's has more value than that 35 with an MBA. That's stupid, I admit it. But, that's how our minds work. Like I said, we don't understand where the other person comes from. I try to understand both sides of the situation. I'm just, explaining the situation from the standpoint of the lame. And then you compound that with the fact that growing up, we have our mothers whispering in our ear. Our mothers are telling us, this is what women want. That's how come there's that, sense of entitlement. You got told from the time you were 13, 14 years old, hey, if you stay out of trouble, if you don't get any felonies, do good in school, get a decent job, that girl's going to come. And it doesn't happen. Doesn't necessarily happen. And where we have the disconnect is the fact that when we're listening to our moms, say your mother is happy with your father. Say you have parents that have been together since you were born and it's a happy relationship. She's telling you what she appreciates about your father or about the man in her life. She's not telling you what attracted her to the man in her life. And even if your parents are divorced or your dad was never in the picture, she's telling you or describing you to you, wanting to mold you into the type of man she wishes your father was. She's not telling you what it took for him to get her to create you. So, there's a lot of misinformation going on. Now, I would like you guys to comment on this. I'm just curious on what your opinions are.